Welcome back. One of the problems that we faced here in Egypt after the June 30th revolution was the way that the events here in Egypt were portrayed in international media. The image was distorted in most of the international media outlets abroad, and the coverage of events in many news channels was manipulated to serve the interest or political interest of particular countries and groups. What can be done to face this campaign to distorting the image of the Egyptian revolution of June the 30th? This is the subject that we are going to discuss now with our dear guest, Dr. Naglaa Emary, media expert and journalist. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Dr. Naglaa, how do you evaluate the coverage of the events that took place here in Egypt from the Egyptian media and from the international media as well? What's your evaluation?
It's so difficult to sum up
of course.
the coverage for the Egyptian media and the foreign media. Because the coverage evaluated, in fact, with the event itself and its course. Let's say that one of the given judgment being said in Egypt that all Western media were biased. I think it's not really accurate. It depends which media we are talking about.
It's very wide as well.
It's very wide and it's very complicated. Some of these media are related directly to governments in their countries. Others are much more independent. So it's so difficult to judge and say Western media. What I always say and repeat when we come to the coverage of the Egyptian media, yes, there was more or less more of the other side in the Western media, but it is not only the mistake, if we may say so, of the Western media, but what was the strategy from the Egyptian authorities to give their version of the story from the beginning. We didn't see this. We didn't see this. We can't blame the Western media that they covered more or less much more the other side, but they were very active. They had from the beginning very clear strategy. They knew how to talk to the Western media using a wide range of traditional media, but also of social media. So many information we were getting through social media. And if we see the other side, there was a big lack of information. The Egyptian authorities tried to remedy to this situation, but it was a little bit too much late and maybe not enough.
Dr. Naglaa, are there special standards for professionalism when it comes to covering events like this? And how can a journalist be objective and balanced when it comes to dealing with the opposite side?
I think it's very difficult. It's very different if you are a journalist from the same country you are covering or someone coming from outside. If you are from the same country, there is an emotional dimension in your coverage, more or less. But we need to try to think a little bit as a journalist coming from abroad. For him, he has to report what he sees and what he hears and so on. He can't just speculate and he can't just accept whatever is said to him. I was asked so many times why you didn't talk about the arms and the weapons in Rab al Adawi. Okay, but I didn't see the weapons in Rab al Adawi. How can I report and say bluntly there was or there were weapons in Rab al Adawi if I didn't see them? I can't report something I didn't see. All what can I say is just to attribute to different parties their own versions of the story. So there are the Egyptian authorities saying that there are weapons over there, and the Muslim Brotherhood denying that there were weapons. But I can't say there are weapons in Rab al Adawi because I didn't see them. So I think there is a difference in the way Egyptian media work and international media work. One of the basic guidelines we give to our reporters. You can't report something. You
But
can't
doctor,
say
we have to
by
mention here that some footages of the guns and the attacks by the enemies of the Brotherhood were shown. They were shown also during the press conference by Foreign Minister Nabil
which was
Fahmy.
very late.
It
Was very late. We shouldn't forget this. But also, and this is something we learn, when we get any footage, we can't take it as it is. We have to check the footage. If you see someone with a gun firing, you can't judge from which side he is unless there is clear-cut information with the footage itself. We can't take the footage as the only proof of it. Again, the basic editorial guideline is to attribute. This side is saying so, and this side is saying something else, and me, the reporter on the ground, I didn't see this or I saw this. This is a simple guideline for us. I understand that it can be very frustrating for the Egyptians, but that's how we work. And when we have the information, we can report it. And I think that's what we can see now in the coverage of Egypt in different media, especially the big organization, the news organization, because the news or the information is coming more and more from the authorities.
Dr. Naglaa, here in Egypt, when we saw the coverage of international media of events, we felt that they are not presenting the whole truth. They are presenting only one side of the truth. After dispersing the sit-ins in Rabaa and Naglaa, violence was reported across the country, attacks on police stations, on churches, on people, on civilians. But this side of the story was not presented and portrayed in the international media. We felt that this misleading or distorted image was deliberate.
I would say again, which media we are talking about, and we need to really to differentiate between different media. This is something we know, all of us. Again, what kind of information was available for the reporters here in Egypt? I think there was, there is a big need to review the strategy of the authorities here, the media strategy, how they dealt with the journalists from the beginning. There was no press center, for example, for the foreign journalists to go there. You were preparing a big event, but at the same time there wasn't a clear-cut strategy for the media. How are you going to talk to the foreign media about this? How are you going to facilitate the work of different reporters on the ground? Who is the spokesman available 24 hours to talk to the foreign media? All this, you can find it in the other side, but not from the state side.
True.
And I think this is a big lack, and we need to acknowledge this and maybe to try to avoid it in the future. You are right, maybe, that it wasn't the big event, because there was another event going on, and it was a little bit dominating the coverage, which was the casualties, the killings, and how many people were killed, and simply because most of the reporters were here in Cairo, they were not outside Cairo, so they again
they have seen
the coverage
only
absolutely the coverage was a little bit late because of this. But again, I think we need to be clever enough and not to put all the foreign media in the same basket, and to really try to take lessons from what happened.
Doctor, now Egypt is fighting terrorism. We are seeing a faction in Egypt which is supporting the terror, maybe imported also from other countries which are supporting this faction. Do you believe that there should be a special media coverage for the situation regarding what is happening also from pressure from the Western countries on Egypt?
Again, I think we need to put ourselves a little bit in the place of the other media, the Western media, how they operate. If we maintain an emotional discourse, if we maintain an emotional language, this doesn't really go down well with the Western media and the Western audience. If I use the term of terrorism, which is really, really very, very tricky term, I need to show why we are using it. And if we are trying to say there is a big, what can I say, plan,
conspiracy,
conspiracy, I need to show, we need facts. Facts are the language which any media will pick it up, and any audience anywhere will pick it up. But the emotional language is not enough to put Egypt fighting terrorism. Or what we saw as translating different interviews, very, very long interviews, which are completely disconnected from what any Western audience will sit down and watch or hear. So we need a little bit of trying to draw a better strategy.
Okay. Doctor, one of the criticisms directed to foreign reporters here in Egypt who were there to report the incidents in Egypt was the fact that they only come a day after the incident or a couple of days before the incident, and they can report what they are saying. They are not following up the developments in the streets, and they are not reporting the various parties of the conflict. They have not been there for a long time. They don't know the details. So they just report as what you were saying, what they are seeing, and what you're seeing is not the whole truth.
Absolutely. I think this is a big problem of